Despite not visiting these places, you probably know them much better than where you currently live. In today's episode, I will be talking about my top 10 fictional cities and towns from video games. I will limit my list to one game per franchise as well, so to get a bit of variety on the list. Why settle for a pre-made city when you can just make your own? Well, that's the case in SimCity, as you're given creative tools to develop a city from scratch. You're there for the city's entire lifespan and govern just how long that lifespan is, giving the player a sense of power over their city. SimCity has been around for a long time, first coming out in the SNES generation back in the 90s. It was the first time a simulation game had become so popular. This would be higher on the list, however I feel the quality of the city is entirely up to the player, therefore it could be a great city or a bad one. Also, it feels cheesy having a user-made city high on the list.
Welcome to CitySeventeen.
CitySeventeen is a grand city of unknown Eastern origin, and it just has the most terrible luck, unfortunately being chosen by an alien race known as the Combine as their main base of operations on Earth, infusing the city with their own form of architecture and forcing residents into house arrest, limiting their movements and their freedom in the process. The city has a very imposing feel to it after the Combine took over and constructed the towering citadel, giving it more of a prison aura over a bustling city aura. The best Simpsons game to date, Hit and Run allows the player to take control of the Simpsons as they partake in missions and quests around the town of Springfield. These missions and quests are set all across Springfield, which allow players freedom to explore the town. This is very unlike the other Simpson games, where players are taken to specific locations and locked to a level. Hit and Run gives the player free reign, so if you wanted to drive down to the Quickie Mart, you can. Or maybe you want to head to the nuclear power plant, well, you can do that as well. Just the openness of the town and accuracy compared to the TV show was stunning to see. It's a shame there wasn't a sequel or another Simpsons game that let you explore with such a detailed environment. Ascending upwards in Dark Souls 1 will lead you to a once bustling city of the gods known as Andorlando. Andorlando is a lore-rich location in the Dark Souls series, so much so that it has been visited not only once in the game series, but twice thanks to its latest appearance in Dark Souls 3. This city can be reached at about halfway through Dark Souls 1. It's the place where players finally get a feel of Dark Souls' incredible difficulty, as it houses some of the game's most punishing enemies and bosses. The one boss most people dread in this area is Orstein and Smaug, who reside as guardians to the Sun Priestess in the cathedral. This boss is a tag team from hell as they choreograph their moves with each other to keep the player hurting. Once this boss has been conquered, however, the player gets to meet the Sun Priestess, which is the pinnacle of the city. I know I said one game per franchise, but I considered Bloodborne and Dark Souls to be different franchises, so I'm also going to include Yharnam on the list. Yharnam is the centerpiece of Bloodborne, a giant city that was hit by a massive plague which wiped out most of the residents, leaving monsters in their place. A sprawling metropolis with a very imposing atmosphere. Hunters who contract the plague are forced to enter the city in hopes of finding a cure to the plague. None have succeeded thus far, however. From Software has always gone with a gothic look for their environments, however, they went above and beyond with Yharnam. My favourite part of this game is when you get to enter giant buildings like cathedrals, which just left me in awe. The monsters you encounter in this area are also walking nightmares, for example the werewolves or parasitic monsters that you can see roaming the streets of Yharnam. Definitely the creepiest city on this list. Liberty City is a reimagining of New York City in video game form. Want to head to the pier? You can. Want to head to the strip club? Again, you can. If you can think of an activity you can do in a city, then it's most likely you can do it in this borderline simulation game. A great variety of tasks is probably why players loved this location in Grand Theft Auto 4. This location was also featured in Grand Theft Auto 3, however, it did not leave a big of an impact as the second visit shown in GTA 4. Skyscrapers, diners, strip clubs, races. This town has everything a gamer could ever want, and that is why when you think of cities in video games, this has to be fresh on people's minds. Silent Hill is never what the eyes see, despite its innocent looking nature. It began as a creepy little town when it was first introduced in the first Silent Hill game, where we found out it had a population of 30,000 people. But even after the events of the first game, the area continued to grow, so even by the events of the latest Silent Hill Downpour, it can be considered a city now and not a town. The main industry the town of Silent Hill focuses on in the games is tourism. However, it is well known that in the past it focused on agriculture. However, the town's leaders wanted to change its focus to tourism. Its residents did not care for modernization, however, and did not want to turn the town into a tourist attraction. If this didn't sound creepy enough for you, the town has always been drowned in a thick, dense fog, which makes it hard for anyone trapped in the town to escape, no matter how hard they may try. One of the unluckiest and dangerous cities on this list, Raccoon City has been through a lot thanks to the company Umbrella, who has multiple labs hidden underneath and around the city that do illegal experiments. One such experiment unleashed the T-virus, making the residents of the town zombies. It's like a playground for zombies at this point. However, luckily, Raccoon City has some highly skilled cops on the case in the form of Leon Kennedy and Claire Redfield. The city has a very dark and gloomy feel to it, and it's a feel that any horror fan will instantly fall in love with. It's definitely one of the best horror cities in gaming history, and definitely deserves to be on this list about cities. Rapture is a beautiful city built under the sea by one Andrew Ryan, a city where artists would not fear censorship, where no scientist would fear petty morality, where man would fear splicers. We are first introduced to the city via the bathysphere that takes us on an external tour of the city. This is considered a masterpiece in gaming history. The sea is just breathtakingly beautiful, from the whales we see swimming nearby to the sea life growing on the city's outer walls. Once inside, however, things hit the fan, as we find out it's a horror utopia run by splicers after a drug corrupts the city. All in all, this is definitely a city you should experience firsthand. It is simply breathtaking. I had a hard time deciding whether or not I wanted to put Traverse Town or Twilight Town on this list. Both towns are great starting areas for the Kingdom Hearts games. However, I felt the first town was not utilised to its maximum potential, being an area to introduce Sora to the basics of the plot in the game, plus some characters briefly. However, Twilight Town was orchestrated superbly, giving meaning and purpose to the new enemy type in the game series, the Nobodies. This area also acts as the intro level. It's where the tutorial is played out and lots of the game plot begins and also ends. In this town we are also introduced to the game's anti-hero Roxas, who is a great character in general, which only helps strengthen my thoughts on this town. It's a town with a light-hearted feel to it. Being next to the seaside helps with this feel as well. The town is populated by likeable characters, including Haina's gang and Setzer's gang, to name a few. If you watched my Twitch live streams, you probably predicted I would have some Kingdom Hearts on this list, and rightly so, because Kingdom Hearts is just breathtaking when it comes to level design.